Right now with us, though, we have Mr. Richard Ramdani, and we will be talking tech. Good morning.
Good morning, Aaron. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. And yes, as you said, it's tech time again. And actually, it's been interesting. We're hearing a lot about technology this morning. We heard Mr. Basinski and Mr. Fielding talk about energy technology. And we are hooking up with Mark again later via Skype.
Via Skype.
And that actually forms the basis of our discussion today. I hope everybody's going to find this interesting, because we're going to be talking about streaming. So, just to jump into things, what is streaming? Well, basically, streaming is and we're talking about streaming media, basically. Streaming obviously could cover a lot of things, but we're going to focus on streaming media. And streaming media is multimedia that is constantly received by and presented to an end user, being delivered by a streaming provider.
Right.
So what does that really mean? Now, I'm going to put you on the spot because you're supposed to have questions for me, so I'm going to have a question for you.
Okay.
Okay? So what would be the most basic form of streaming?
That I know of, radio.
Good one. I thought I'd catch you with that one.
I thought you would catch me.
No, that's the perfect answer, because streaming is nothing new. It's something that we use in our everyday life via means like the radio, like the television. But of course now it's more associated with the digital technology means by which it's done via the internet primarily. So that's what we're becoming familiar with, and that is now allowing us to provide a lot more content via this media, as opposed to it being limited to, say, television productions and radio productions. People can now, stream things themselves via various tools that are out there, and a lot of which are free as well. But before we get into that, let's talk about some different types of streaming. So again, Aaron, I'll put you on the spot. What are sort of the two different main types of streaming you can think of?
I could think of audio, as you said, which is like radio and so on, and video streaming.
Right. Okay. Well, streaming actually doesn't refer to more the content type, but the delivery type.
Okay.
So that's a common misconception that people have.
So online?
Well, I'll just tell you straight off. I mean, if you have content that is stored and then people can access it sort of on demand, or live, exactly, which again we've seen today already on the show with the hookup via Skype. So those are basically the two types of streaming you would find that how they're designated as the live, which is done at the time the video is captured via a camera, usually. Then it is encoded and transmitted over the media. In this case, it would be the internet, and then decoded on the other end, and it is then replayed to the user in an analog format. With the stored content, we have mediums such as YouTube, where videos are uploaded as a file. And again, the file is then encoded in the same way as a live, but of course the source now is a static content as opposed to content being generated at the time. So how exactly does it work? Well, we know that the internet is a very popular means for streaming these days, and essentially we use the internet as a communications platform. In the old days, well, not the old days, but with radio, the communication platform is radio frequency over the air. Now we have the internet, so we can reach a lot further. So you can stream something from here in Grenada all the way to Zimbabwe, to New Zealand, and it just increases the reach of that network, of that communications platform. I mentioned before encoding and compression. Streaming uses something we may come across, again, if we use the internet quite a lot, we may come across a term called codecs. And codecs basically stands for compression, decompression. Because, of course, with any transmission media, you're limited by a number of factors, including the amount of information you can pass over that platform. So you try to, compress as much information. With video, of course, video has a lot of content, a lot of information there. So we try to squeeze that into a smaller packet as possible, transmit it, and then you need to decompress that to be able to view it by the human eye, basically. That is basically put into a format that is then what we know as the stream, and in the internet's case, it's called the bit stream. So that is just the language it uses to know that, okay, I'm connecting to this this endpoint, and I'm expecting a stream as opposed to an HTTP web page or some other type of media. So it knows to keep on decoding this content and present it to the end user.
Okay.
Yep.
So you've broken it down.
I hope so. I hope I didn't get too technical.
Yeah, you got technical, but yeah, you're broken it down. I think we could understand most of what you were saying, right? And people are familiar with some of those terms like codecs and so on. I'm sure you've had video on your computer at home that wasn't playing because you didn't have the right codec or something like that, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So that just means that the way that it was encoded, your computer needs to now understand that to be able to decode that.
Right.
It's like decoding a language.
Okay, so tell us more about streaming itself. You know, if someone had some video, let's say we're like a lot of things we do, we stream games, for instance, that you can't get on your TV, and you want to see what Inter Milan and Real Madrid.
I was going to say, what kind of games are you talking about?
Right, like football and so on,
Yes.
or any sports for that
I
matter.
actually watched the Manchester United and Tottenham game by streaming yesterday.
There we go. Right. So, one, if you're interested in streaming, tell us about, you know, how we do it. If for someone who doesn't know at all, the legal aspect of it, you know, is it legal to stream? You know, because some people may ask the question.
Well, I won't get into too much of the legal because I'm not a lawyer, but I would say that the first thing you need to do is to check with your service provider, because you need to ensure that you are abiding by the terms and conditions of your service provider. However, having said that, I do believe that streaming for the most part is a very widely accepted and legal way of, like I said, providing information. The content itself too, you would need to look at that. If, for example, you are rebroadcasting copyrighted content, then obviously that would be something that you would be, is a no-no.
Right.
But if it's your own content, again, going back to YouTube, you know, people broadcast their own content every day. And again, this has given people a media to produce their own content without the need for expensive television productions, for, you know, set design and actors. I mean, they writers, they do their own content and broadcast themselves. So it's becoming more and more widely accepted as a way of putting your message out there, putting your own content out there. And I think it's, you know, for the most part, it's legal, but you do have to, you know, make sure, like I said, those, and then of course, who you're going to, you may be looking at some content that they, you know, present as available and legal. But again, you as a consumer need to educate yourself to know, well, should I be looking at this, or is this something that somebody else is now doing something illegal?
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned cost. How much cheaper is it to broadcast via, let's say, the internet video than it is to do it on TV?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to get to nail down the cost exactly because there are many different ways you can go. However, I did want to take some time this morning just to demonstrate to people that streaming is something that you can do yourself. Again, there may be costs associated, for example, with your internet connection,
right,
or you may have servers to host depending on how much content you have. You know, you need to have, you know, thousands of videos, for example, or you know, high definition cameras. But the actual streaming software itself, and I'll just set up a quick demonstration here on my computer using a program called Video LAN, which is, again, an open source and free streaming tool. So it says VLC player, but it actually has a streaming server built in.
Right, so we're showing the folks at home what you're doing exactly.
So I'm just going to go in quickly to this option here called streaming. And I'm going to add a file. And again, this, I could choose various sources. There's a disk. There's also from the network, which would be sort of streaming over the network from here to another network. Or a capture device, which could be my camera. But I'm just going to choose a file that is, you know, just a sample video that comes with my Windows 7 installation. I'm going to click stream, and I'm just going to choose a few options here. Obviously, there's my file name there, and I'm going to add a destination because there are various different protocols. Again, I'm not going to get into that. That's very technical.
Very technical.
But I'm going to choose RTP MPEG transport stream, which is a popular way of streaming these days. I'm going to go ahead and click add. I'm just going to put in my address because I'm just going to stream. This may be a little bit like cheating, but I'm just going actually to stream from my computer to my computer just because, you know, we're doing a very easy demonstration here today.
Right.
And I'm going to go next. Just going to click this option here, and I'm going to click stream. I'm going to minimize this window and just open up another window real quick.
So you can see what you're streaming.
Exactly.
All right. So
we're simulating, you know, sort of two machines. Now, one point I would make is that obviously I'm doing everything on my machine. I'm doing the encoding part or the compression part, as well as the decoding and decompression. So it may not necessarily result in the best stream, but we can get an idea of what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and say open network stream, and I'm going to type in my URL here. There we go.
Now,
we're going to hit play.
While you're doing this, tell us some of the things that you need, because you mentioned that you're going to put in your address, you put in your URL, you have the video and so on. What do you need to stream? Like, you need to own a web domain and that sort of thing? Tell us everything that you...
Well, a web domain would be a recommended option, but I don't think you would count that as a necessity. It's probably a good idea because you want somebody to have a identity associated with your site. So if it's, aaronsvideos.com or whatever the case is. But from the basic point of view, you obviously need a server that is connected to the internet because people need to be able to access you. You need some way to store your content. You need to have some way of encoding that content. And then you need the software that is actually making it available via a stream.
Okay.
So those are the basic elements that you need to have. And I'm a little embarrassed here because my video is not playing.
Uh-oh, got a bad stream.
Yeah, just like our Skype connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, obviously that would be one of the disadvantages in the case of the reliance on the network. I think in the case of earlier, we lost connection with Mark, and that would, represent probably a disruption in the network, either on one of the two ends. But of course, there are ways to make that more reliable, and if you're in a production environment, you're going to want to ensure those things are done in terms of redundancy and good internet connections and so on.
At least we got the real live view of it.
Well, I'm going to try it one more time, just because, I don't want people thinking I'm, sorry, not file. Maybe that was the problem. We're going to do RTP.
Okay.
We're going to go add. Again, I'm going to put in my address, which is my local loopback address. And I'm going to, and those are just four quick steps. And then I should now be able to open that stream. Oh,
there we go.
And there's the stream. So now again, this is being encoded on my computer, and then I'm using the same player to access that stream.
All right, so your computer's kind of doing double the work right now.
Yeah, and like I said, in a production environment, you will have more powerful servers if you want to cut down on, let's say, the delay, because of course, one of the things you may find with streaming is that there will be a delay between the time the content is actually being played and the time it's being shown.
Right.
That may not be a problem for some situations. For example, if it's just a recorded event or something like that, then 10 seconds, 20 seconds delay is not going to affect the end user. But in a case where you sort of, may have a need for feedback or a need for two-way communication, obviously, like Skype, for example, you need better encoders, better hardware to be able to process that, and of course the network. You need to have that solid connection.
Right. Well, maybe the next time you come, I'll be able to ask you a little bit more about this, but unfortunately we're running out of time. Maybe you could tell me about Skype and streaming and how I get to stream and what I should stream and all that good stuff.
I'll just say quickly, with Skype, it uses streaming technology, but it uses this for a video conferencing type application. So you can't really use Skype to stream to the world over the internet, but it does use video streaming. It does use video conferencing via the streaming technology.
All right. Which would lead me to ask you a question which may have a kind of lengthy answer, which is, why is Skype so popular over all of the others?
There's an easy answer to that.
And?
It's free. And it works.
And it works.
It works for the most part. I mean, Skype is a really great product. It does work very well. I use it daily, and the video features of it do work pretty well as well. So it's become really popular.
There we have it. So in order to make your stream a success, make it free, like Skype. All right. Thank you very much, Richard, for coming on and sharing with us about streaming this morning. I'm sure you're going to have something nice for us next time, as you always do.
Well, I'll try and open for suggestions.
Yeah, definitely. I'll send you an email. Only via technology.
Correct.
Right?
The show is about technology.
All about technology. All right. So we have just been talking tech. It was Tech Time with Richard Ramdani.